Galatians 1, I'm going to start at verse 6. This is Paul speaking, so this is everybody's favorite man in the New Testament, Paul. I marvel that you are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Messiah unto another gospel, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Messiah. So there's going to be some people that are going to trouble you. They're going to try to confuse. They're going to try to put this burden on you, telling you that you need to keep the entire sacrificial law. And you have those people, mainly the Torah movement, but also the JEWs, because of course they try to keep that whole law too. So there's going to be people coming in, and these are like the Pharisees, the modern day Pharisees. So the modern day Pharisees aren't the ones that are telling you to keep the 10 commandments and eat clean, the 2 covenants of promise. The Pharisees are the ones that are telling you that you have to wear tzitzits and circumcise yourself. And then this goes back to Acts 15, which is a rebuke to those Pharisees. And in that same chapter in Acts 15, you're told to do these 4 things: to abstain from pollution of idols, to abstain from fornication, to not eat the blood, and not eat the like estranged or strangled animal. So it's basically telling you about the 2 covenants of promise, and it's telling you not to break the 10 commandments, right? Don't fornicate, and abstain from idols, and eat biblically clean. Don't eat unclean animals, right? Don't eat the blood, and don't eat the strangled animal or something like that. And so, yeah, this is what Galatians 1 verse 7 is talking to you about. So there's going to be some that trouble you and pervert the gospel of the Messiah, because they deny the gospels. They deny the gospel. They change the gospel for you. So that's like the specific verse. But of course, you also have, like, on the other side of that, you just have like the false pastors and the false shepherds today that are preaching 45,000 different denominations that are also perverting the gospel and perverting the grace of God, because they say stuff like it's grace is unmerited favor, you're once saved, always saved. Again, you have 40,000 plus different denominations preaching a different gospel, a different Messiah. So Galatians 1 verse 8, but though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. As we said before, so say I now again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than that you have received, let him be accursed. So he tells you again, if you're going to receive any other gospel that isn't the one that we've received and are preaching unto you, that person is going to be accursed. So pretty much all of the apostate Christian pastors and the right Torah movement and the JEWs, and again with Torah this includes the BHI, the WHI, all of these people are going to be accursed. And what does it mean to be cursed according to the Bible? Well, Deuteronomy 28 tells you that if you receive these curses, it's basically destruction, right? Your city's going to be accursed, your family's going to be accursed. It's being destroyed, essentially, because you either get blessed or you get cursed. Blessings turn you away from your sin. That's in Acts chapter 3. Yeah, Acts chapter 3, right? And then curses, if you're cursed, well, then that leads to death. So it's, and then again, now verse 10. For do I now persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Messiah. And I mean, a lot of the reason why people are going to please men is because, for example, you might have some pastors that know that Christmas and Easter is pagan, but because they're people pleasers and they want to please men, they're not actually going to tell you to stop doing that. They themselves might not do it. They're probably not going to be celebrating Christmas and Easter and other pagan idolatry, but they're not going to tell you to stop because they want to please you. They're people pleasers. They're respecters of persons. And what does James tell you? He tells you to have the faith of Yeshua Messiah without respect of person. And God is also not a respecter of person. So that's another reason why it's telling you here now, Paul, right? Is he going to persuade men or God? Is he going to please men or is he going to please God? Because these people here that we just read about in verses 6 through 10, whether they're on the right Torah tribe, whether the modern day Pharisees, or whether they're the apostate Christians, they're going to trouble you. They're going to tell you that either you have to do these added burdens or you're going to be completely lawless, perverting the gospel of the Messiah, perverting what the Messiah came to do. But that verse specifically right there, verse 8, but though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. Well, if you back up to 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 22, this is Paul speaking again. He says, if any man love not the Lord Yeshua Messiah, let him be an anathema maranatha. I don't know how to pronounce that. But so it's telling you, if you don't love your Lord, Yeshua Messiah, you're going to be anathema maranatha. And if you look at the Strong's Concordance for anathema, it means accursed. So what did you just read in Galatians 1:8? You read that if anyone preaches another gospel unto you, he's going to be accursed. And in 1 Corinthians 16, you read, if any man love not the Lord, he's going to be accursed. So if you preach another gospel, it's the same thing as not loving the Messiah. If you're preaching a different gospel, same thing as not loving the Messiah. Because it's telling you, you're going to be cursed. If you preach another gospel, you're cursed. And if you don't love the Lord, Yeshua Messiah, you're cursed. Well, then if you go further back, like, okay, so what does that mean? If I don't love the Lord, well, I do love the Lord. Well, do you love the Lord? Because loving the Lord means keeping his commandments. 1 John 5. And his commandments aren't grievous. And what are these people in Galatians 1? What are they doing? What they're troubling you. They're telling you that it's grievous. They're either telling you that you can't keep the commandments because they're too grievous, or they're telling you you have to keep the whole law, which is grievous. Both sides, it's hard, it's difficult, it's troublesome, it's perversion. They're completely denying what the Messiah came to do. What did the Messiah come to do? Well, 1 Corinthians 16, he taught you how to love God and love neighbor. These are the two elevated commandments. What is he quoting? Well, to love God means to keep the commandments. Again, 1 John 5, John 14:15. And to love neighbor means to rebuke sin. James 2, verse 8, Leviticus 19, verse 17. So, and that's, I guess you could say that's like the gospel in a nutshell. That the Messiah came, he took away the burden of the sacrificial law. He elevated the 10 commandments into 2, love God, love neighbor. And he made it easy for everyone to do this now. The Gentile and the Jew, the Greek, and whatever, however that says it. So now all you have to do are these 2 things. And that's like the gospel. That's if you wanna, you could summarize the gospel in many different ways, but that's the gospel for you too. Mercy, not sacrifice. That's another example of the gospel, right? He said, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and the knowledge of God more than burnt offerings. I desire the knowledge of God. I desire the keeping of the commandments, not sacrificial law. I desire for you to just love God and love neighbor by keeping the commandments and rebuking sin, fulfilling the royal law, right? That only like the people who are the royal priesthood, the kings and queens are going to be doing, which is again loving your neighbor. Then putting on this extra burden of you have to wear tzitzit, and you have to learn Paleo Hebrew, and you have to do the feast, which you can't even do because you're in captivity. Or again, the lawless Christians that just say, oh no, you don't have to do anything. Again, just perverting it. So yeah, I guess it's just for the connection between Galatians 1 verse 8 and 1 Corinthians 16:22. So if you preach another gospel, if you preach anything besides loving God and loving neighbor, that's what you're supposed to do to get people to repent, keeping the commandments and teaching others to keep the commandments. If you're preaching anything else than this, you're cursed. And it's the same thing as not loving the Lord. If you're not loving the Messiah, that means you're not keeping the commandments. That means you're not rebuking sin. That means you're not doing the gospel, and you're going to be accursed. I'm done.